to Waddington Cargo. Cargo to Roger. Coming up to Waddington Cargo, reports on all your aircraft are clear of behind the cloud line, please. Your engineer to pick it up in about 5 minutes.
The museum, control tower, therapy and memorial chapel. It'll be a day out to remember at the Lincolnshire Aviation Heritage Centre.
Offload the oxy hose.
East Kirkby near Spilsby. The sun in your eyes, the wind in your hair, looking cool in your blue anorak, the two-wheel freedom of...
Situated in the showground area, there's a great huge black tower, and they'll be doing unarmed combat displays. The first one is at 10 o'clock, then 12, 2 and 4, so do make a point of going through there during the day.
11:20 local, not for another hour and a half.
With your takeoff time, that was the time we have on your flight plan. You may be subject to flow control from Brussels area radar.
Roger, thank you. I'll be getting you in very shortly.
Thanks, Tower 6038.
Good day.
Parachute display team, hopefully the cloud base will be high enough for them to do their display. That'll be followed by the Jaguar, then the Blades display team, that's the extra 300s, the Battle of Britain Memorial Flight, then a flypast by the Red Arrows and the Sentinel aircraft, and that should be really worth watching. Then the Red Arrows display. Then we've got something a little bit special. We've got a roll demo, which I won't talk to you about now because we'll have their own commentator for that. And then to close the show, we'll have the Red Bull Matadors flying their Su-26 aircraft. So as I say, if you look at your insert in your programme that you bought, you'll see there are a few changes.
It's very nice and quiet, so the people who live around here will be pleased about that. This is the Sentinel R1. Twin engines, as you can see, modern engines. They're the two Rolls-Royce Dutchland BR710 turbofans, and turbofans are much quieter than sort of ordinary jet engines. So this is an interesting squadron, 5 squadron. It's Army Corporation squadron. In fact, personnel come from both the Royal Air Force and the Army. ASTOR stands for Airborne Standoff Radar, and that'll provide long-range battlefield intelligence, target imaging and tracking radar for the Royal Air Force and the Army. And there are also 6 mobile ground stations that deploy with divisions or brigades, and that of course is the Army side of it. The aircraft will operate here from RAF Waddington, carries a flight deck of 2 pilots, and then in the rear of the mission crew, normally comprising a mission controller, 2 image analysts. If it wasn't being used for this, the actual airplane itself is technically, if you're looking at it, an ultra-long-range business jet. And you can see the number of R. It is actually a derivative of the Nimrod MR2 Maritime Patrol aircraft, operated here by number 51 Squadron. Highly sophisticated and sensitive suite of equipment on board for reconnaissance and gathering electronic intelligence. Ideally suited for this sort of work because it can climb to height, transit very quickly into the area, and then loiter around at low speeds for long periods. Actually, I feel happy when I say actually into the top of the aircraft, so it can operate one way or the other. Normally has a crew of 18, 4 flight deck crew, 3 technicians, 11 mission members, and they comprise of a tactical director, the mission crew commander, fighter allocator, 3 weapons controller, surveillance controller, 2 surveillance operators, a data link manager, communications operator, and the electronic sport measures operator. So it's got all sorts of different equipment on board, and each requires its own guy to actually be controlling it. Not part of the display, we're just popping in round from behind and to the left. That's the Royal Air Force Chinook helicopter.
Followed by a drumhead ceremony in the hangar. There'll also be a minute's silence at approximately 11:45 to remember those who gave their lives for the freedom of the islands, and the service will finish by about 12.
Left descent line correcting slowly, 2.5 miles on glide path. Glider ground, line up, surface wind 210, 10 knots. With Waddington Tower 132.9.
Just keep an eye on those two aircraft. There goes the tug, upside down, still towing the glider. And there goes the glider. So we now have a formation of gliding tug flying past from left to right. I said it was unusual, and there are even more unusual things to come. Guy Westgate is 8 times national champion at unlimited glider aerobatics, so interesting. Again, still connected, but you could see the glider doing a couple of rolls there. The extra 300 upside down. And now for something completely different. There you go. Unusual, as I say, normally the tug is just used to get the glider up to height to release it to then do its aerobatics. Well, they put together this little combination, and I think it makes life really quite interesting. Actually, I said we were going to see the tug and the glider again together. That was the original plan, but again, weather, slight restrictions on the display. We were due to get the glider back, and they were actually going to fly a mirror fly past, and then they were going to do a tail chase. So unfortunately the weather's slightly limited the display here today, but I still think a very spectacular display from the Swift glider. Interesting display from the tug and glider, as I say, something that you don't see very often.
You hear the blade slapping as it goes round. This is the Army's utility helicopter, and we've got two variants, the Mark 7, which you see here today, and the Mark 9, which looks very similar, but it has a tricycle undercarriage. And on operations, the aircraft is manned with a general purpose machine gun and an air door gunner in the back of the aircraft, so a crew of 3. And the crew flying today, we have W2 Paul Stoneman and W1 Barry Jones.
Hi, Sam Waddington ground.
Right, stand by for the barrel roll, ladies and gentlemen. Normally reserved for fixed-wing aircraft.
1102 Zulu, request your intentions.
Now, you don't normally see helicopters doing that.
02 Zulu.
Now, whilst he's conducting that barrel roll, rolling the aircraft to the right, he has to be very careful not to drop the nose, otherwise he would drop about 1,000 foot very, very quickly. So it's taken quite a bit of practice, and obviously he starts out practicing that manoeuvre at some considerable height.
Copy the latest one to weather time to 10:50. Victor, roger, runway 20, colour code green, QFE 10.
And now as the aircraft comes back across crowd centre, again you'll see the aircraft conduct what helicopters don't normally do. The aircraft is going to perform a loop, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. And as it goes round, they'll be experiencing about 2 to 2.5 G inside the cockpit.
Ground, will you need a power supply to restart?
Or indeed to conduct a pedal turn.
Request your leaders climb this.
Turn up motor being broken 700 feet, overcast 1,500 feet. Then continue with Waddington, tower 256.675. Hawk, taxi, runway 20, holding point.
Taxi, holding point 20, Hawk.
Waddington tie on this. Waddington tie lineup.
Been around for quite a while as well. It first flew in 1974, came into service with the Royal Air Force in 77 and replaced it. Power comes from a turbomatic Ardour engine. It develops about 5,200 pounds of static thrust. Normally aircraft are rated on the amount of static thrust they provide. The Ardour engine was also used in the Jaguar, but the Jaguar version had reheat, making it more powerful. As I say, it's been successfully sold all around the world. The Australians have got it. They took delivery in 2001. South Africans, the Indians, the Bahrain Air Force, quite a number. So, as I say, very, very successful, and also used, may even convert the Canadian Snowbirds display team onto the Hawk. The Royal Air Force is getting the Advanced Hawk. I think at the moment there are 20 on order. They've got an option to increase that by a further 24. Should be coming into service probably next year, 2008. Let's say it'll replace some of the current T1 Hawks at RAF Valley. Running in now from the right, you can see the aircraft neatly on its back. So he's actually going to do his tactical training in Canada, because there's a NATO school in Canada that's got obviously different nations training. That's where he's going to do it, not Nigeria. Aspirations are to the moisture in the air. As he pulls hard, the air's being compressed, so they're contrails, little sort of clouds for everybody. And sometimes you get condensation flashes. Again, you actually... Okay, in front, the next display items took off with a little bit of a twirl there. We're going from fixed wing to rotary, and this is the Chinook. It's a HC2, a support helicopter capable of carrying about 10 tons of freight. Can carry either inside the fuselage as a rear loading ramp door, which you'll probably see during the display, or as an underslung load. And it can actually, there are actually 3 points on the Chinook, obviously front and back and one in the middle, depending on what type of load you're actually trying to carry. Royal Air Force operate the largest number of Chinook support helicopters outside of the United States. The main operator there, of course, is the United States Army. So the gearbox is kind of an important bit of this helicopter. If you look at the back of the helicopter, part of the door is open. You can see the sort of the main ramp is closed, but you can actually see a sort of the dark space at the top, and that's the top part of the door which actually lifts up rather than down. High wing over. And coming in now for a landing, which is a running landing. And once that's been completed, it'll be a backwards takeoff. So it's got a sort of a four-wheel undercarriage, that's fixed, you can't retract it.
I'm just checking.
Today's captain on the Chinook is Captain Dave Trail. The manoeuvre Dave is executing is called the running landing, normally used to land the aircraft with limited power following an engine failure. As you can see, the rear rotor gets quite close to the ground, and extreme care must be taken not to raise the nose too much. Today's co-pilot is Squadron Leader Andy Lamb. Having joined the Army Air Corps in 1986, Andy underwent his officer training at Royal Military Academy Sandhurst before going on to initial pilot training at Middle Wallop, where he flew chipmunks and gazelles. Dave Trail is now taking the Chinook into a move we call the roller coaster. He heads it up, points the nose down, and heads straight for the ground. As he comes down, he pulls the nose up